Could I have a Celsius from the fridge?
Fantastic.
Now, please. It's so hard to find engineers. Unbelievable.
All right, any sort of outline you want to do for the podcast? Anything? Just kind of free flow? What are you thinking?
Yeah, free flow. I mean, I feel like it's been a year. There's a lot to check up on, and new developments. And then, how's Heather?
She's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
we just had Isla about 3 months ago.
Isla. Oh my gosh.
And so our second daughter. It's just been a really, really beautiful process. And so Isla's 3 months old, and
I saw her in the gi.
Yep.
I showed my dad, and I go, "Look at this."
She's already done a couple of gi classes.
She just lays there.
She kind of we gotta. The shrimp needs work, but I've seen worse.
Look, how did she deal with Nita Belly? But Steven, I appreciate you coming in. I figured we could just check in free flow and talk about your fight.
Fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I think it's been 2 years since my last MMA fight. I'd have to double check, but I believe
crazy
it was
to me.
March 5th, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And after that, there was just some medical procedures that I was trying to get wrapped up, get closure on.
Right.
And then actually the main thing that I've been working on, really two things, the split is like kind of like financing the Warpath a little bit.
Yeah.
Building out the business side of it, building out like a structure in which like I'm going to be able to do this on a sustainable like pattern long term, and building that out, and then just skill acquisition at this point. So
that should be your nickname. Just develop. I mean, because it's been, you said 2 years.
Yeah. So I do feel like pretty much a completely different person. Like in that time frame, my wife and I, we've had a daughter. In that time
Congratulations.
Frame, so we're learning the process of what it's like to handle a newborn and going through all of that, and that's been absolutely beautiful. And with the circling back to the training and like financing the Warpath, so like the business aspect and then the skill acquisition, like having a kid has really like highlighted to me like how important it is that like I have time freedom, and I have like I don't have that financial pressure where like every single decision that I'm making, it's like most people have this filter of like the first filter on like whether or not something's possible is like the financial implication of it.
Right.
And that limitation in the process of the thinking, it kills creativity. It kills like problem solving big time. And
it's not like not allowing you to access that part of the brain.
yeah, exactly. And it's just it's very limited. And like when you think of like if you're trying to like support a family, raise a family, work an additional job, do the job of training to be a fighter, and everything that's entailed with that.
The job in itself.
Yeah, fight camp is like, fight camp's a full-time plus job.
Yep.
And like all of these things to add, like, because oftentimes it's like even while you're working, in order to finance like the ability to train, it's like that's not like a situation in which it's easy to raise a family. Like there's significant sacrifice that has to be going on there. And so in the past 2 years, well, since the last podcast episode, and like I've gone full time into the industry. So like at first the first thing I did to help out with that is I started Ubering. I had been doing like some contract work
Mm-hmm.
on the side, some construction work, building
That's right.
decks and
And I remember you were
fences.
just killing yourself, and then you're like, "But I'm here and I'm happy to train." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
these people, they get me." But also, like, it helped me develop that for myself. It's like,
Mm.
you can't go 100% all the time. You're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna fall flat. But I was like, just knowing that, like, I can stretch that stress tolerance over time. Like, oh, I can handle a little bit more. I can handle a
Yeah.
little bit more. And then, but eventually, then you're like, I can't handle that much. And then you snap, and then you have to pause.
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
for me, I get going, and then
Well,
she
there's
has
like
to save me.
there's like a breaking point sometimes. It's like you're because you're trying to uh increase your tolerance for like you could think of it as like capacity to like adequately handle stress or
Mm-hmm.
through like discipline and applying yourself to accomplish like a specific goal. So you're trying to like create that adaptation in yourself, uh, just like you could do in like a gym and building a muscle. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like sometimes like you just bite off more than you can chew, and like that can sometimes set you back further, like
Yes.
because like something breaks, and then you have that whole recovery process to go through. Like uh, about that like time when we were contracting. So I was actually doing it with another fighter, Mason Pillow.
Oh,
He's
the
been on here,
animal. The
yeah.
animal.
So he had a fight, and we think it was like either the first or second punch that he threw. It was just this huge haymaker, and he broke his hand, and like it was boxer's break.
Oh, I remember
And
being there for that wild shit.
yeah, absolutely fucking crazy. So like we were doing contracting together,
He
and
was
like
gonna
I
cast, man.
was like working with him. So like we're at the hospital after that fight instead of like finishing out the fights. Like I took
Yeah.
him to the hospital, and we're like celebrating the win by getting his hand fixed up. And then like it was that Monday,
Mm-hmm.
he has like pins in his hand, and he's like scraping off drywall and doing money.
Mason the animal.
And it was like, holy shit. And it was actually it was part of that process. It was just like, well, it's like if my body breaks, then I can't train and fight, and I can't do this construction work.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like I need to figure something else out
Yeah.
at this point.
Right.
And so I started.
That's a good way to look at it as well.
Yeah. I just started taking a different path. And so I started Ubering, and that gave me a little bit of time freedom. Like it would still be pretty long nights. Some nights I did it all night, especially over the weekends.
Yeah.
So I'd train really, really hard during the week. I would still get some training in on the weekends, but I would Uber and try to get as good as tips as possible. Like I brought like all the snacks. I tried to make sure I had like charging cables for everyone,
That's
stuff
Steven.
like that.
Yeah.
And, like I was upselling people.
You were like, do you have USB-C? Do you have iPhone? Do you have an old ass phone where it takes this weird cable?
You need a water. You need a bag of chips.
Yeah.
You get oatmeal cream pie. Is like
Just like a button in the car. You're like, oh, water,
Yeah.
thank you.
I wish it was never that fancy.
I don't think any car is that. Don't steal it from me. Okay, I made that. Don't Tesla.
Yeah.
Unless you want to pay me, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's crazy experience. Like just going through, talking to a lot of the different people all across the city.
Yeah.
And like kind of getting a better understanding of the city, getting a better understanding and feel for like the people of Kansas City.
Mhm.
And like I want to say like any like super deep connections, but there was a night where the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and so I was out
Oh, what a great day to Uber.
that evening. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane, and there was a really distinct moment, like I think it was on Main Street or something like that, is absolutely packed. People all over the place, like running down the streets, going wild.
Oh, even not when the Super Bowl has just been won, it's still a crazy place.
Yeah.
Main Street, you're like, what's that? Because I used to work up there, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go.
But the funniest story would be, it's broad daylight, and there's I would assume a homeless person, and in a wheelchair with no legs, and is just going crazy. And I go, I wonder where he's going. Cop hops the curb, boom, and then they're yelling out the window like their name. Hey, give that back. So apparently he was like robbing people.
Oh shit!
And then his blanket is just nothing but bags, and he's like off-roading it through down like between buildings, and the cops don't care. They're just going on the sidewalk, and I'm like, I'm just
like,
at the stoplight.
Like an SUV or something, or
yes,
like...
they had the sirens were on. They were doing the whole thing, and I'm just like at the light, and I go, well, I guess it's 5:05. Like it just was it's a crazy place just to see crazy shit. So
yeah.
But yeah.
Man, Kansas City's starting to get like, and we're not quite there yet, but it's almost at that tipping point of like big city feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're still country, like 20 minutes away. Like we're still like very, very connected to the rural area, but it's on the up and up. It's
my kiddo asked me that. He goes, oh, how big is it? And I go, I don't know. It's a regular city. It's okay. And he goes, is it bigger than New York? And I'm like, no,
nothing like that. Nothing.
I go,
like
none
that.
at all. And he goes, well, it looks the same to me. And I'm like, okay. So I get it, because there's, if we're up here, he comes to the studio, any of that stuff. He always has these just questions.
Yeah.
Now he's almost 10. He'll be 10 in March, and I'm like, a double-digit kid? That's crazy.
That is
I'm
crazy,
like,
man.
10 years ago, you were the 3-month-old. He wasn't in a gi, but the 3-month-old. He's just like, look at you shit in your pants, and I have to feed you, and if I don't, then you won't be here. And now he's over here like, leave me alone. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. And I'm like, what happened? 10 years gone. So it's crazy, and I didn't mean to get off rail, but the minute that I saw that post on Facebook with you and Heather, I'm like, oh my God. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, in the first episode, I cried. I sat right here and cried with you as you told me the story. And it was just a moment that was like, toughest guy I know. And then I got to meet Heather, and I'm like, what the unit? Like, and I remember a year ago, I sat here and I go, I hope to find the unit like that. Well, she's behind the camera. So we did it. Thank you, Stephen.
Let's go, Carly.
Yay, Carly.
That's fantastic, man.
And so it was just a lot. The more that I'm just witnessing life kind of go by a little bit, like figuring out, well, who I am, who I want to be, what I want to do, right? And then most of it comes down to the people that you have around, or like who you developed your sense of that from. And I'm like, I developed it from the wide range of the philosopher Stephen to Mason the animal, who has the cast, and he's like, I can still train today. You're like, sit down, stop. He goes, because I remember walking by and he had the cast. It was the day after or whatever, and I like didn't see it because he's sitting this way, and I'm like, did you jiu-jitsu? And he goes, no. And he has this big ass cast, and I'm like, I thought you won. He goes, still broke my hand. I'm like, you wild man. Because he dropped him with it. I remember he hit him hard as and dropped him. Yeah. But I was like, I got tears again on the internet looking at a post of you guys, this unit, the thing that I wanted to emulate in my life that you and Heather have as this team. And now you guys get to celebrate this amazing thing. And it's beautiful, man. And I'm so happy for you. Because I was like, I can't like more than one time. Like I can't leave enough comments without being a weirdo. But, but yeah, I wanted to make sure to tell you that. And
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, for a little bit of fill-in, if you guys haven't seen like the previous episode of the like what he's referencing, like through that season, my wife and I we had lost our first daughter and we went through that whole process. And shortly after that, we did the podcast, and then between that podcast and now, we've had another child, and her name's Isla, and it's been a
Isla.
beautiful process that whole way.
And the name, beautiful name.
Yeah,
Isla.
my wife selected it, and it, funny enough, it means there's a couple of different meanings. I think, is it etymology for word history? So
I think so.
a couple of different.
I don't know how I know that, but I think
depending
so.
on how that traces back, but all of it kind of relates back to like light, moonlight, something like moon halo, light bearer, something along those lines. And with it being like moonlight, she was then born on the full moon. So
No
and
shit.
we had selected the name well prior, and so it just it's perfect. It was just there was
so perfect.
there's a couple of different things that like it felt like a higher level of organization than like some sort of plan, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know if we got into the that side of it, any kind of plan, spiritual side, especially after that. You're very philosophical and you're very intelligent, and you were always the guy who was doing the notes. You after class, right? And it was I'm not saying I was peeking over your shoulder, but it wasn't like punch hard. You know, it wasn't like crappy notes. It's like in-depth paragraphs of how to do this. And I remember being in class after one of them, like just not one class and I was ready. It was like just a regular Wednesday or a Thursday class, something simple. And it was the striking coach at the time. And he singled you out and was like, this dude's going to be the UFC. Guarantee it. Because I see him doing the notes. I see him doing this. And I'm like, there are levels to, achievement, right? Like you can be gifted and just leave it at that, right? I don't need to go to Wednesday class. It was the same thing as Monday class. We're probably going to do the same circuit, do the same thing. And it's like, no, the repetitions is how it gets put in there. And it's like, I'm seeing people who are both talented, gifted at whatever they're doing, whether it's wrestling specific or striking, or if you're Gomi, you're both. Like, it's just like you were gifted and then studied it to the point where they merged together. And I'm like, well, that's who I have to be. If I want to be good at this, I got to study. I got to watch. No more Netflix. No more this. I got to figure out what I need. What angle do these have to be at, right? Same with like when you would study jiu-jitsu or striking. You're like, what's the angle I have to step to get that right? I'm going an uppercut here. How do I do it? You're getting the notes down. Like it's very methodical and specific because the goal's oriented to it, right? And the fact that you're thinking ahead of time, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because you're thinking both sides of it, which is, like you said, skill acquisition and then the finance, right? Yeah. Because if you don't have both, then it's not going to work. Like if you can't provide for yourself or provide for your family while you're doing it, well, then you can't really do the skill acquisition because you have to work. Like it's a give and a take. And there's a lot more to it than people give it credit for. Yeah. And I applaud you for that and hitting it the way that you have. And I bet Heather does too.
With the note taking thing, I do take notes. I took a lot of notes when I was hurt. Like, and that's one of the ways that like I didn't really disrupt my training routine when I couldn't train. And so it was more about like at that point I was just doing what I could do. And a lot like honestly some of the note taking was a little bit overkill. Like it was just a little bit.
All
like,
right,
but
here
I was
we go.
just
Here's humble man. He's like, oh, it's overkill.
No, it was
like,
just kind of not necessary for like development in the same way. Like note taking is incredibly valuable for sure, but like there's an overcomplicate. Like I was overcomplicating a lot of the notes that I was taking instead of like trying to find like the most simple way that I could articulate the lesson. And yeah. So
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but to round it off, it was just that it wasn't that you were the best in the class or the most gifted. It was like, yo, he's here all the time. He's willing to put in more work than you guys. I know wherever he wants to go, he's gonna get there. That was what he was saying, and I go, yeah, and I go that you can take that same lesson, extrapolate that core piece of it, and do it with anything that you're doing. And from that moment, it changed. It changed in here. It changed my job, promotion, youngest. I'm like, it might be something simple, right? Anybody could do this thing. And then the other things, it's like, wow, Chase, you're gifted at doing this side of the engineering part. And it's like, but I'm also willing to do great at all of them, right? Some people might slack, be lazy, do this, but that's what shines when I can do that. And then when they both come together, wow, you're the youngest one in the organization who has their own area to represent, their own place, their own building to manage, right? And then now you're working with architects. You're working with people who have higher degrees than you who need your information because you've done all that work. I did not see that at the time. But as I go back, I'm like, it was that core piece that was important. And so, like I said, it could be the gym or it could be the people, and I guarantee it's the people. Because I've been to different gyms, and I'm like, it's not here. It is not here. Yeah. Like, it could be, And so, who's that? Oh, no. Sorry, I'll cut that out. But I couldn't have been more blessed at that time to have you and all the guys at the gym, Marathon MMA.
Yeah, Trey's done something fantastic with the culture there.
I don't see him much. I saw him backstage at one of the Synergy fights, but...
he could come to class more.
Yeah.
He teaches a good number of the classes.
Cut that. Cut that. I'm there every day.
Yeah.
In spirit.
He was recently making a kind of a funny speech that this is kind of a recurring speech. He's given a handful of times, and every once in a while we bump into a new inspiration for the speech.
Oh no.
And it's the "don't suck at your job" speech.
Yeah.
But it's actually like quite profound. Like when you think about it's like when you do something and you suck at it and you watch yourself suck at it, like you're building that into your character. Because you're watching yourself do that. And so it's like, even if the job is like detestable, you should have a conversation with yourself on why are you engaging in work that you detest? Like, should that be fixed? What are other options that you could do? Could you do something that you could have a little bit of pride in? But then even if it is something that you're at the bottom of the ladder, that you're trying to work your way up, and it seems like maybe demeaning work, at the lower ends as you're trying to build your way up to the thing that you want to do, as it were.
Right.
It's like, even through that, it's the process of just being the best you fucking can at that, even if it's just just mopping something, or just cleaning something, or scrubbing a toilet, or something along those lines. It's like you watch yourself and you build that character, and then that is the payback of the building yourself is the reward of that process. It's not the minimum wage that you're working for. It's not the lower wage if you're at that level. It's building yourself into the person that's worthy of that next level of income.
Yes.
And that starts with how you view yourself, your level of self-respect. And I was having some major struggles with self-respect. One of the processes that when we were going to the hospital, when Evelyn, our first daughter, passed away in the process of the birth. One of the things that as we were going throughout that whole process that I had to process on a consistent basis was like the potential difficulty of like, what if the medical complication is like something that can be treated, but I literally can't afford it. Or what if there's something that's like, we have to make a decision, and like maybe we have a situation in which there's a projected 5%, 10% survival rate, and this treatment that for $200,000 or something like that, we could get into and see, and then would potentially have to start making those decisions. The way the whole process played out, like the condition that she had was fatal. There wasn't any options,
Right.
and we didn't know that early on. But the limitations of the financial aspect of it, it was like I was just having an incredibly hard time, like respecting myself, and like, because it's like comes down to my family. Like if there's complications here, like I can't even afford to take care of my wife, afford to take care of my child. I can't like afford these things, and fighting for a $500 purse or something like that is not gonna like, it's not gonna make a difference. Like
No.
it's not gonna solve that problem. And like at that time, it was like I couldn't even fight because I had just had all the surgeries and I was trying to recover from that, and then we had complication after complication, and so I had to just like keep on going back, and the date for me being able to fight again just kept on getting pushed back further and further. And so it was like, okay, so like, well, in this time in this season, like I'm changing the direction of the ship. I'm changing the pathway. I'm changing what it is that I'm doing, and like started my business at that point. And so I teach a lot of private clients now, people who are interested in training but don't want to do group classes, can't really like afford the risk of getting injured in a group class or something along those lines.
You don't know if the other partners are going to have that control.
Or they just need something a little bit more like personalized, or that's just their preferred method.
No one better.
Like
no one better. Straight up, no one better.
A lot of people who are like competitors or who are wanting like for MMA or jiu-jitsu, who are looking to like build their competition game plan, get focused drilling, stuff like that. I've been doing sessions along those lines, and then teaching group classes. I teach at 2 different schools, and this is all just the start of like, and I can't talk about it too much just because like I gotta build it so I can show,
right. Yeah,
because that's the important bit. But it's all just the start, like of like taking care of this first piece of like financial freedom and getting that settled, getting like my wife to where she doesn't have to work for another company. We're very blessed that she can like work from home, but to where she doesn't even have to work for another company. Any work that she's doing for my company, and like just all these different aspects, and like all of that leads to freeing up energy and freeing like mental energy from me, freeing up physical energy from me to be able to continue to build out like the structure of like the vision of the plan. And like the thing that I'm most excited about is like how this is all designed to feed back into the community and build the community.
Same.
And to tie it back into that Super Bowl Sunday, and when Mahomes had just won the Super Bowl, just as I was driving through the city, dropping people off, just the energy in the air is just like, like one day, sooner than we think, like it's going to be the same type of feel for a UFC world championship belt.
Yeah.
And it's going to come
Yeah.
from one of these one of these athletes. It's
I
going to
it's
come
the
from the
hub.
marathon
I'm
mass.
telling you, there's so much talent. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
I'm talking every weight class: 125, 135,
Yep.
145, 155. You're 170.
I'm 70. Yep, 70.
Boom. Those are the ones that I love to watch too. Because I'm like, no offense to the heavyweights, but like it's either, unless you're Cyril Gahn, then you're just both. You're fluent in striking, and you're like, I can defend takedowns. And you're like, okay.
It's almost a different sport at some of the different weight classes.
Yes, agreed.
It's kind of, I love it, man.
Well, do you remember the feeling of the UFC fight at the Sprint Center?
Yeah.
I'm being there for that, just being around in Kansas City. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more fans than you would think.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's like,
that event did really, really well.
Yeah.
No, like Kansas City is a major where like we have soccer teams, we have baseball, we have football. Like I don't really watch a whole lot of other sports, and like I don't even really watch MMA for like I watch it to tape study, like more than anything else. I'm
the most annoying person to watch too, because I'm calling things out and they're like, "It's boring." I'm like, "You don't know what's happening."
Yeah,
I was like,
I turn the commentary off most often. Like
you watch it with no sound?
Yeah, I don't like. I get so pissed off with some of the commentators.
That's true. We always make fun of John Anik. He's fighting for his marriage as well as this fight, and you're like, "What are you saying?"
I will say, man, he is so smooth with those ads.
Dude,
they just come off so well.
He's like, I was like, Manscaped, how stupid. And then I'm like, well, John Anik did mention it the other day at the fights. I'm like, it's
man, did you watch the Garrett Armfield fight?
I did
the other day.
Fantastic.
Did you have the audio on for that? Could you hear Trey's coaching?
Yeah, I literally am sitting there. Carly's there, and I go, I can hear him. I go, listen. There he is.
Yeah. He was screaming, man.
I did. I was like, I go, that's Trey. Hear him? Hold on. There he is, right there. Hold on. What's he saying? I'm like, quiet. I'm trying to listen.
Just massive respect to that corner. So is Trey, and I know Miles was there. I'm not sure if who else was in the corner, but then to Garrett as well, Garrett Armfield, like. That was was it Brad Cantona was his opponent?
Yes, yeah.
Super tough fight, and
dude, and he looks. I mean, it said 32, but I'm like, what? And then I was like, me and Jordo started arguing about when the Ultimate Fighter was when he won, and I go, no, that was like this recently. He goes, it was a while ago, and I'm like, looks the same.
Yeah, well, like absolute stud of an opponent, and like Armfield went out and he put on a fucking fight.
Yeah, that's the test. That's what
sure.
they were looking for. They're like, all right,
sure.
You're ready for the next step.
Yeah. And I think this fight like really demonstrates the team effort of it. Like, because Armfield's fantastic, but there's something about having a good coach too. And like you could tell, and like as Trey was calling out all of these calls, like he was on it. He was the vision, the way that he was able to tell exactly what the position was, what needed to be done, and then on Armfield's side, on the execution. Like as soon as Trey made a call, Armfield, the discipline,
Trey
locked into
that.
He locked into that game plan so well, and like it's just beautiful performance against a super tough opponent, and like another big win for the team. That's 5 wins in a row in the UFC, I think, at this point. And I know
Trey mentioned something. Didn't he sign again? Didn't he get a new signature?
Trey has a 4-fight deal, so Trey's re-signed, which is fucking fantastic. Dude. So like we still got the general at the front line.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And I said, I think the biggest key when it was, because and tell me other coaches that don't do this, because it was even when I didn't have anything, I'm just training, but it's like you can see that little piece of dedication. There's that little piece of something in someone, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do the octagon thing, but I am gonna do this for a long time. Dude, I can't even go to a regular ass gym and do weights or anything because I'm like, fuck, this is so stupid. It's not even useful. Who am I gonna punch going like this? With the machine press? No one.
About to piss a bunch of people off.
Yeah. Well, great. Come to the gym and we can have a discussion. It's not, and it just gives. And there's another play there with, because I don't talk about it. They just think I'm just a nice, friendly guy. But it's like, it gives you that confidence to be like, I can conquer a lot of stuff more than I thought I could. Right? And I think that's because Trey didn't do it with the body. He did, but then he also does the speech. He does the books, right? It's about the mind. You have to conquer the because there's 3 things I pieced from your when we were talking about the city and about the complications that come with the finance and then skill acquisition of being this top tier MMA fighter. And the first one is that fear is crippling, right? Which is why people don't do it. But it gets easier after that first try. So as soon as you look yourself in the mirror and you face it a little bit, then you're like, okay, that sucked. But if I did it again, I think I'd be better at looking at myself, right? And then you can extrapolate and go, well, that needs to be fixed. How do I fix that? And then you can go from there. And so it led to this thing at work where they kept catching me, and I'll go, well, it may be a problem, but problems have solutions. We just have to go through the weeds and find it. Like, it may suck. It's going to be difficult, and it's not going to be easy, but we will find the solution, and I won't stop until I do.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's only because you looked at it. It's only because you took the time to actually do the hard thing. And Trey was always like, it's the class you're not going to go to that you get the most out of. And I go, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I felt that a couple days ago because I'm like, you know what? I missed that. And I have this plan. I typed it up, and I'm like, okay, let's see. I know I'm probably deficient in vitamins. I'm probably not taking the right stuff. I'm just eating as I go because I'm working myself to death. Like, I'm just going. And I'm like, I can only juggle so much. So what can I cut? What can I keep? And then what means the most? And then the one in the middle of that Venn diagram is what I'm going to do. And so now that I can do that, the key piece is like, a few weeks ago I had this moment where I was going 150% and I hit the wall, right? And I told her, I go, hey, like, I don't know what it is, but I'm in this mood. I'm in this funk. I'm in this depression. I don't know what to do. And it just pulled me out of it by doing little stuff. Like, this is a problem at work, in here, because it seems massive. But then if I start on small little blocks, then I'm like, okay, working out of it. Okay, we're back to feeling normal, right? And so that's only coming to terms with saying, hey, I'm having a tough time. I'm having a little depressive spell. But if I didn't do that and I go, it's nothing, then I wouldn't get out of it. Like, it's just, and I think that's a lesson from the gym. And a key piece of that was like, God, I miss going. Like, I miss seeing the guys, like checking in. And I haven't been to fights for a minute, which I was going to ask, when's yours?
March 1st. Yeah. Yes. Man, we got to get you back training consistently.
I miss it
too.
I do. Yeah. I bounce around. I'm like, okay, I can do Muay Thai right now. I'll do the Muay Thai class. How much is it for the day? Then I'll hit Kendrick and I'll go to the boxing gym. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, hey, Ray, one community jiu-jitsu club.
Yeah. I actually have a little piece on that.
Yeah.
So one of my coaches and mentors, Ninja Pinto, so he runs Brazil Academy. He's the owner there. They've now franchised. They got a couple of locations. He also runs a really amazing charity called the Ninja Stars Project, where he's helping like underprivileged kids from different areas all over the world, Brazil, Italy, a couple of different areas, and helping them get access to coming to the United States, learning how to run a gym, learning English, learning how to teach in English, learning the processes of like running a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, like what's the business structure behind it. So Ninja's a very, very smart guy. And one of the things that he implemented is a little bit more of a strict program schedule at his school. And um, when I was talking with him of why, he gave this example. He's like, because it's people want to treat it like a buffet. And it's like, where do you eat the healthiest? Do you eat the healthiest at a buffet when you just go and you pick and choose? And he's like, it's too many options. People because he had like he has even more sessions on the schedule now, but at that time it was like maybe close to 40 sessions a week happening.
A week?
That
Am I quiet?
Am I a little bit further from the mic? Do I need to bring that
no,
closer?
no. I just meant,
gotcha,
there I am.
gotcha.
Thank you.
So as he's like, here's the problem is when you give people the whole schedule, they look at Monday and just like, oh, there's 6 sessions I can make today. So I'll just make one of them. And then their day gets started. They miss the 6 a.m. They miss the other morning classes. They miss the noon classes. They get on towards the evening, and then something crazy happens with work. And then it's like, oh, well, tomorrow. And then tomorrow becomes tomorrow, and then becomes tomorrow. And then it comes to the end of the week, and they have all of these options, and they never had a decision of like, oh, this is the one that I'm definitively going to.
Right.
And so establishing the schedule, establishing the routine, to make sure that you're in the proper environment at the right time, and then the environment will take care of the work for you. Like a lot of the time, you still have to engage with it for sure. But if you're at least at the spot at the time that the class is happening, and you have it like 3 times a week, I'm going to this session, and that session. It's like those people have more success, even though like the guy who's picking from 40 sessions a week at 5 different locations or something like that might have like more options, and maybe even could have the potential of a better training program, and maybe we'll have weeks where they have 10 sessions, 15, 20 sessions, and but they just lose out in the long term because of the consistency. And so it's like, even if it's not like a huge commitment, it's like 2 sessions a week, 3 sessions a week. It's like you can acquire skills at that level for sure. And one of the things that like surprises me consistently is the level of like some of the guys in Ninja's program that they just come to their program classes, and they just hit the 3 sessions a week, 4 sessions a week. Some of them, some weeks it's 2 sessions a week, but they're super, super consistent week on week on week. And so they just start stacking weeks, and then they start stacking months, and like, then they're stacking years.
Right.
And like years of not missing. It's like, oh yeah, if you could say, oh yeah, for the past 8 years, I've done 2 sessions a week at a minimum every single week, and I haven't missed. It's like, you're going to be a legit threat, even if you're not like a professional MMA fighter. Some of these guys who they're just hobbyists, like,
because it's popular right now.
yeah, but then I have my hands full with some of these guys. It's like they're middle-aged dads, and like sometimes I'm like, fuck, these guys are tough. Like there's a white belt that has been if he sees this, he probably is gonna know who it is. But he had some other martial arts experience. And it was like some karate, and then some wrestling, and like it was martial arts was like a really, really big deal in his family growing up, like a really, really big deal. Kind of is what his dad did. And so he's a white belt, and he's like middle aged, and he's fucking huff.
Yeah,
And
and I
like
know you're purple. I know you're a purple belt.
Yeah.
And I know that you're humble, and I know that you're like honest. So I'm like,
it's just like some people like it's much easier to break something than it is to protect something. And so like you don't have to like if you're training and you're training consistently, the edge that gives you on other people, like as far as what like if it was to be like a catastrophic failure of de-escalation efforts, and you're having to engage in a more dynamic solution. Like you just a little bit of consistent training, like keeping those weapons sharp, the edge that gives you, and like the speed in which things happen in real life. It's like we see engagements that happen in like 5 minute rounds for a championship fight or something like that, or a headliner fight. Like we see like these prolonged engagements, and like the jiu-jitsu match is 10 minutes for a black belt at IBJJF. Some like ADCC with overtime, you can be over 30 minutes, but like when shit happens in real life, it's like most of those happen in like a matter of seconds.
oh yeah,
It's like 60 seconds or less, 30 seconds or less, 15 seconds or less. Like, and it's done. And so just that little bit of training, like it, you don't need as much as some people. You're like, it doesn't need to be everything in your life. Like, and it makes you a better person all the way around. Like that ability, it's one of the ways that I think about it, is in like the mental energy that you have to apply just to navigate your body. So like navigate your emotions, navigate your physicality. So getting up, standing, picking something up, balancing it, making sure like you don't dump the fluid or something
negating
like that.
the response. Like, you know, we were watching the fights this weekend, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was Garrett. I'm like, he has to turn in. He has to turn into that choke, right, and then get out. And they're like, what? I was like, it's usually the opposite. It's usually they're like, go grab this, and you're like, no, fight the top hand and turn into it so there's less space. I'm like, it seems counterintuitive to the brain to go into it, but then you're out. And then he was still in guard, but he was on bottom now, and he wasn't in any trouble. And I'm like, okay, see? And they're like, oh. So it's like knowing that just instinctually is how you win those 50 seconds to a minute. And would 95% of fights go to the ground? 90%, something crazy.
A lot of them. Yeah, a lot of the fights do go to the ground. And like winning on a second by second basis. And so it's like like those winning that 10-second engagement. It's like, okay, this is the reality of the situation. Like you got to address what's actually there and make the correct decisions for that point. And the benefits of training, like being able to make decisions under high pressure situations, like it helps with that. But then even just from a standpoint for like being resilient for life, like one of the clients that I work with, he recently had quite a major surgery. He's in his 50s. He's not trying to get in a fight. He's not trying to spar in classes with like the next up and coming amateur, a pro
high
fighter,
level killers who are
like
looking
that.
to take you out. Yeah.
Like he needs to be at work. Like he needs to not have a black eye for his business meetings. He needs to be able to like not be injured for that. But the like the level of preparation that we were able to create for him in the process of like preparing for this surgery, like I didn't even realize that that's what we were training for. But then like is a major operation. And she's like, oh, we just spent the last year and a half getting you strong for this event.
Wow.
Because you're like the strength that you go into this event with is going to significantly matter, like when it comes to the terms of your recovery, when it comes to the terms of like how you're going to handle it on the back end. And like, as opposed to like, if you're already out of shape going into it and then you have all that time off and now you're in even worse shape. And it's like, it's not as helpful. It's like, it is beneficial to be strong and to be resilient. And even just like moving, like the people don't realize that like when they stand with like poor posture and like they're leveraging themselves wrong, they're not utilizing their biomechanics in a powerful way, like that's bleeding energy from the system.
Yeah.
And so it's like you learn through striking, you learn through wrestling, you learn through the martial arts, like what a strong posture is. You learn what a base is. You learn what like being able to like actually be grounded and stop a shot. Like what that feels like to be powerfully rooted into the floor. Like you learn these things and like you start to move more efficiently in general. And it's like you start to move more efficiently for everything that you do in your life.
Yeah, bleeds everywhere.
Yeah. So it's like the benefits, like, and I might be flipping this, is Plato or Aristotle, one of those guys. They talked quite a bit. It was like, it's a shame for a man to grow up old without ever knowing, like without ever experiencing, like what it's like to be athletic, essentially. Like that's obviously a paraphrase, but it ties into so much, like being able to use your body well ties into being able to use your mind well as well. And I'm not saying that like you can't think clearly. It's like that it's impossible to think clearly if you're out of shape or something along those lines. What I am saying is it helps.
Those habits don't develop into good behavior outside of doing that. And it's the two things that I love to pull from is have you ever heard of the story of the refrigeration repairman who died in the fridge?
I have not. No. Sounds like a crazy story.
Excellent. So, it was a major business that has like, the freezers, the giant freezers that lock, and they have the big ass handles.
Oh,
have you heard this one?
Wait, was this the one where he froze to death? And
yes.
And it was broken? And,
yes.
And so it was like room temperature in there?
Yeah, it was never on. And he's like, what? And I go, your mind can do some wacky, crazy shit, right? So it's like, that means you can do it for the positive to do some wacky, crazy shit. And I'm always like, great. So you can talk yourself into things. You can talk yourself out of things, right? No matter what level of that spectrum is, good or bad, right? You can talk yourself into things that are bad that you then go, oh, that's okay. You're like, it's not, but you said it so much that now it's okay, right? It's just the same thing of knowing that. So it's not just like, and then for me, it's also, I was thinking long, big, lofty, giant, glorious goals, which are good to look at and keep there. But also, it means that every day you're doing this. So for example, if that's the black belt, well, then that means every day, as much as you can, go there to get there, right? And so for me, that's easier to do something that's like on a week scale. This week I'm going to do this, make sure Monday I do this, Tuesday that, that. Then to go, oh, hopefully in 10 years I have this crazy lofty goal. And it's like, more often than not, it's just the small things that add up.
Schedule it.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule it. The inputs and outputs. Like if you want a certain outcome, like reverse engineer it. Like what's the required inputs? It's like if you do X, Y, and Z for X amount of time, like would it be unreasonable if you didn't have your outcome, your desired outcome?
Right.
And it's like reverse engineering. It's like, okay, well, like I need to do this every day. I need to do this every week, and I need to do this every quarter type of thing. And then you put it in the schedule, and then holding yourself to that schedule. Like it's like it's a gift of self-discipline, and like to actually hold yourself to that to get that delayed result. And uh
It's this crazy thing where you have to look ahead,
mm.
but just look, and then come back to present, do it, and then you get closer to looking at the thing that you're doing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it was some wacky comparison, but it was the overall like gist of this like TED talk I was watching
Mm.
was that like what would separate us from like, you know, a chimp, right? And it's like they do day to day, 24/7. We have the ability to, they call it the time machine, to go ahead of time,
Mm.
look at what that looks like, bring it back to the present, and then work towards the thing you saw in the future.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's very different than just like eat now, do this now, do this now. And it's like most people do that. They go day to day.
Have you heard Jordan Peterson's explanation of the Garden of Eden?
No, but I love anything that he talks about when it came to that, because I mean, there's a lot of, I don't understand why, but probably because it hurts their feelings. But I love Jordan Peterson and everything he does, and I watch it all the time.
Man, that's fantastic.
I think he changed
yeah.
me to be the better man that I am today. Truthfully, just by watching videos constantly and looking at the lesson.
I got some really good benefit out of some of the stuff that he shared, especially when it was like his lecture format. Some of his political like nobody's perfect. I'm not trying to like shit on anyone or anything
Right.
like that. And I think that there's a lot of benefit for some of the different things that he says. The whole explanation though you said around like the difference between like us and an ape, as an example. So that was kind of his explanation of the Garden of Eden and the experience of like eating the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. It's like if we think of that as an experience as like an evolutionary process to where like at that point, because like our eyes developed to like be able to detect color spectrum of ripe fruit, and so
Right.
like is we kind of co-evolved with that, and that led to greater developments in the brain. And if there was this moment where like time was discovered, and like the knowledge of good and evil is really the consequence of understanding time, because
Wow.
good and evil, oversimplification and definitely could be debated, but like a oversimplified way of like considering good and evil could be considering like mechanisms of activity that work or do not work over a repeated series of games or a repeated series of time.
Fantastic look at that, by the way. Only him. How would I? No offense to like me, but like also, these are the people that you look for. Because you're like, did you watch any of the whole series? I haven't watched it. When
which
he goes
series?
over, it's Jordan Peterson. He has the panel, and they go over the Old Testament. Like,
I didn't watch the panel. So I watched. He did Genesis, his biblical series. He made it through most of
on
Genesis.
something, I think. Daily Wire.
Yeah, so that was that's all behind like a paywall and stuff like that, right? Is
I mean, I get it, but it also I'm like, God, it's got to be chock full of information, because that was the thing that me and like my pastor would get caught up on. I'm like, this is very like poetry-y. How do you decipher like what's between the lines? Right there, Garden of Eden, Jordan Peterson, perfect, because they also think that's what scientifically is what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a narrative like I don't identify as Christian like by any stretch of the mile. If anything, I could be more considered as like a spiritual Ronin. Like I'm not
That's it.
affiliated with.
You get a spiritual Ronin shirt if I've ever seen one, sir.
But some of the things like some of the different like ideas that religion wants to hold on to, that it just like it doesn't. I don't feel like it's serving anyone, and like the the literal truth of the Bible being one of those things. It's just like, oh yeah, it was like a literal apple, and it was like a literal 7 days of creation, and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Earth's only 7,000 years old, and like,
Did you know also the Earth is
uh,
flat? You're
yeah,
like, stop,
yeah,
stop, stop,
yeah,
stop,
yeah. I
stop
was
it.
like, oh, what, or um, even some people who are like, oh yeah, well maybe there is room for like it not being a literal 7 days and like evolution and stuff, but yes,
Pardon my
still there's
French, but
the
yeah, no
inerrant
shit.
word of word of the Lord, the Bible it doesn't err, and then like uh the virgin birth and stuff. And it was like,
Yeah.
like
Now, in
I
order
don't
to
think
get
yeah.
truth, you have to be able to look at it with a different set of eyes.
Mm.
And that's terrifying to individuals.
Well, I find it interesting that like religions um claim to be the suppliers of truth, but in many instances, all they require is that you like suspend rational belief. Uh, and it's like, well, by what mechanism can we ascertain truth if like
Yes.
we are supposed to suspend like the way that reality operates?
Yeah.
And
Because then you don't live here.
yeah, it's like this isn't here. This isn't now. This isn't the world. This isn't reality. And so, of what possible relevance is this
Yeah.
like when it's not based in reality? And
Well, those are my favorite things. I never had more respect for someone doing two things. One was a pastor willing to take a young man's questions,
Mm.
right? Like hard questions about life, this, that. How does that make sense? Why does that make sense? And how does that tie into the Bible? And he goes, all right, here's my bookshelf. Half of it is biblical documentation, whether it's written by a Christian author or things written about the Bible. And I go, okay. He goes, the other half is called my science nook. And it's all science books that also can tie into the specific material.
Mm.
And I was like, that's what I need, right? It's like when you can take something that's even designed not to be understood by us, and then we get a glimpse of it and you put them together, to me that solidifies it more than just like, no, it's 7 real days. And you're like, is it though? Like, hold on. Like we have stuff that we can combine this and make sense with, right? And that would be like, as someone who does both, because I say this at work, I say it everywhere. I do not like I don't know. Right? If I don't and I answer, well then that's my truth. That's the honest answer. I don't know that answer. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to go look for it. Right? Most people stop at the I don't know. And they go, I don't know, but it does say that. And I go, well then it's hard to validate that opinion if you haven't looked at it truthfully.
Yeah.
And I go, I do not want to be like that. Or or my kid, if my kid has questions and he goes, hey, Dad, this doesn't really, I want to at least look at it with him, like, truthfully, and not just go, because it says so. It's like, that's different than being like, well, I found this, and I found this, and science and spirituality, they mesh, and it's also why I love the movie Interstellar.
Because it's a fantastic movie.
Well, it did so much. You had to do the research to get it right? To get it as exact as we possibly could understand to try, right? And I think what makes it so not based in reality, and then he brought it to the movie, and I go, perfect. Like it just makes sense. Otherwise, it's just some shitty, stupid sci-fi movie that could be happening at all. It just and that's Christopher Nolan. But either way, I have to have that. And so, like, when you say you're a spiritual Ronin, for sure. I totally get it. But there is something in that, right? Because, like, that means that you have to also be vulnerable and say, I don't know. Yeah. But I'm going to try my hardest to at least try to make sense, try to find something in this series of, I don't know, biological zeros and ones that we live in.
Yeah.
to piece together why I'm even here in the first place. And
Yeah,
it's a very deep question that people do not want to look at.
it's interesting. So like the science bookshelf and the religious bookshelf, as it
I'm
were.
talking like quantum physics on one side and then like understanding of Genesis on the other.
Yeah. There's such different mechanisms for operating and understanding reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel uh like when I look at like the aggregate of human experience, as far as like from what I can tell from the material that I have access to, there's a very compelling answer that like humans have evolved for a spiritual experience. Like we've at least evolved with a spiritual experience, and that is uh, kind of universal across a lot of different um, like sections of our evolution, and through like civilization and through human development, uh, like some sort of religious, spiritual uh, presence has been there, and science is science, especially as we know it now, it's a fairly new method of thought, and as we've come into this modern era, a lot of people no longer have a religion that they base themselves in. They no longer have a belief system that they base themselves in. And so they turn to science, and they kind of make science as their religion. And
It then becomes the cult.
it does
Yeah.
a little bit. A little bit. It's a very interesting thing though, because science is not science is a process. And it's not a belief system. It's a process of like trying to deduce the most true thing that we can detect in reality, at and trying to control variables for that. So it's trying it's not uh, religion, in my opinion, it much more comes to organizing your ontology, so organizing your structure of belief, and kind of what is you can't you what is the thing that you believe beneath all other beliefs. So
Yeah.
what's the driving factors, the driving forces of your life. And a lot of people don't have these identified, and even in their religious experience, even if they are practicing like Christian, or somebody from a different faith, like they don't use uh, their religion as a structure of belief, and they view it through a scientific lens a lot of the times, and it's like when the King James Bible was written, the scientific thought hadn't really been like developed to the level that it has been today. Uh, it it wasn't made to be read through that lens. It operates under a completely different premise,
Right.
and it serves a different function. And when I exited Christianity for a long time, I just didn't feel like I even needed like that pillar in my life, a pillar that a religion could serve, or a sense of spirituality could serve. But I think like my finding was that it was so necessary that it was happening without me being conscious of it, and so it happened regardless.
Right.
And uh, and I was like, well, I should seek to take conscious control over that and actually like make it happen conscientiously instead of happen by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And
Some things you can, some things you can't.
yeah, I just the whole religion thing. The thing that pisses me off the most is the idea that like another human being, so somebody just like me, like
Mm-hmm.
they shit, they pee, they like eat food, they burp,
They
they
bleed.
fart, like they uh like they've experienced shame, they've experienced judgment, like they're experienced doubt, like they're human, like, and they can claim a monopoly on belief.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
like, oh yeah, and like it's only this belief.
Yeah,
It's
the
only my
superiority
belief.
complex. Yeah.
And like even the fractionalization of like the church, it's like there's so many even different versions. It's like people say Christian, it's like, oh, it's like what does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many, like there's so many different denominations, so many different expressions of that belief that like the word in of itself has minimal meaning in today's world because of how it's been expressed and because of like what it does actually mean culturally when you say it. Like it doesn't have that same meaning anymore, and then for these people to like to claim like a monopoly, and it's like, oh yes, this is the right belief, this is the true one. And then even some beliefs, it's just like, well, like if they serve their religion faithfully, then they're actually they're like, if they're a true Muslim, they're actually a true Christian, you know, like, and
Yeah,
like there's
I think that's why we're in such a good time, actually, because then you get to dive into it like you're diving into it, right?
Mm.
And I think that's more of a conscientious openness than most people realize, because then and if you're ignorant to the fact that well, churches don't make money or do this, I'm like, back up, like
Yes, they do.
like they for sure do, and there's lots of things, and I think that's also where you get mixed up now.
I've been seriously thinking about starting a church just because of the tax benefits.
Hello, yes, yes.
It's not actually that hard. It's
There's
not actually
not gonna lie, just to throw it out there, the weird situation with the wheelchair person right in front of the Scientology place, right in the middle of Kansas City. So just it, but I think that I don't know. I really do think that if you look at it at face value, you're gonna get face value. But if you go in, you look at it, and you can go, "Hey, I've got questions about that," then I think you're better off. And being ignorant to specific easy tax benefits is a good one, to ignoring those things, or even just the history of like, you want to go Catholic Church, not so great, right? And you're like, okay, but if you just ignore all that, well, then you're not going to grow. I mean, and I think part of there. Have you ever heard the study of it was a longevity study on people who lived the longest, and there were very common factors. Have you ever heard this?
I don't know. Maybe expound on it a little bit further, and we'll see.
And so it's this I forgot his name. I just had it and it was gone. But he did this study on longevity and what you need, like the essentials, right? And it was like 5 things. The first one was you need to stay active. So even in your old age, right? Stay active, whether it's it wasn't as simple as walking, but like doing something that you enjoy so much that you're willing to move for it. So like the motivation to do that. Relationships. Have good, important relationships around you, right? Doesn't mean family. It could be, you could have no family, but you have this strong group of friends that support you and tell you what not to do, right? So relationships. Diet, right? Important food, good food. Excuse me. Spirituality, not religion, different word, which was broken down to not a specific religion, but a specific section of life as looking above yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Looking outward to existence in general, some type of spiritual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh my gosh, the last one, I lost it. But it was like food, exercise, relationships, motivation, and then something related to gratitude, like being grateful for the time that you have. So I think it was the realization that there is no, you may be surrounded by infinite, but you are not. And so a graciousness to take that and be here while you're here also tied into the spiritual part of it. So it was like all of those, they live to be well over 100 something. And I'm like, okay. And just expanding and growing on all of those 5 throughout your lifetime allows you to grow yourself both spiritually, physically, emotionally, and all the things that tie into being here.
Yeah.
But it was quite interesting, and I remember going over it and reading it, and I'm like, wow. I go, okay. And people go like this, I'm good. I'm just gonna do the same routine and do this, and it's like it's deeper. But until I meet people like you who are willing to even look at it, they're like, okay, too much. Like I've literally had someone, I'm like, oh, this, I'm talking, and they go, I didn't get any of it. And I go, well, you weren't willing to listen in the first place. And so I think the humility and gratitude to do that is also why at that period of time where I was with you guys, where I felt like I got exponentially, like really, really like, okay. Like I was like, I knew 0. I never wrestled. I had been to title boxing for like a month, and I knew jack squat. And I remember the story of you, because it probably been 6 months, right? And I'm like, you were looking for a partner, and no one would go with you. No one. Because you're a murderer, and you're good at what you do. You're the nicest guy, but also it's like, I had this feeling. I could not imagine standing in a cage across from you and going like this, I'll make it. That's not what crosses my mind. And
we're in different weight classes. You don't gotta worry.
Yes, I can hit 170. Give me a while. I'll eat as much Burger King as you need me to do.
What we were talking about,
Cut
the top 5 things, like something in diet, like for living over 100.
Yeah. Well, I just this story popped in my head because I'm sitting over by the front desk, and I was willing to take all the stuff I wasn't and build on it to be something I could be proud of, right? And part of that is being really fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm looking for someone. Everyone's like, I hurt this or I did that. I mean, not knocking any of the guys, but they had just done 4 rounds and there was 1 left. And I'm over here just like out of breath doing this. And I go, I'll do it. And you're like, all right. And you didn't go like, fuck you. Like, you've been here 6 months, whatever. You were like, all right, let's do work. And I remember you did a really good teep up the front, and it was hard, enough for a good push.
Oh, shit.
But I didn't. It was like, by being there with you guys for so long, 4 or 5 days a week for 3 hours at a time, I'm like, I know what that feels like. I'm comfortable. And then you were like, okay, that was your read. And you were like, we might have a different round than I initially thought from someone who'd been here 6 months. And then we were going and going. You kept teeping, kept hitting the same spot, accurate as fuck. And I remember being so uncomfortable because the back of my mind goes, you can tap or like leave. But that's not what I'm going to do, right? And having that mental like fortitude focused and talking to my mind, not the body, changed it. And you were like, and the round, beep, bell goes off. It was like 3 minutes. And you go, I was really trying to kill you.
Oh, shit. Was I that much of an asshole?
No. I think you were surprised as much as I was surprised at what I could talk myself into like doing. I mean, I'm probably thinking like 8 or 9 good teeps up the front, right to diaphragm. And you can hear the noise from me, right? And I'm like, nope. And I would just keep coming, keep walking. And you're like, okay. And so you were pushing me in a way that I was saying yes to. But also you were like, he's going to get good work in, and he knows he's developing faster than the other guys who are sitting, and it's just 3 people sparring.
Sure.
And I always remember that, and I'm like, I am tougher than I think.
Yeah, yeah. It, so some days like you can get that feeling, and then some days it's like try not to cry at the stoplights.
Yeah.
For
Very
sure,
true.
for sure.
You're like, why am I even
Yeah.
here?
Uh,
Today sucked.
I
You have those days, but you got to go back.
yeah, I kind of have this thing, like when other people are like kind of sitting and like during the drill time, not so much during the live rounds anymore because the volume of sessions that I'm at this point
Mm-hmm.
is like so high. I actually have to like I can't I can't do every single live round for every single class that I'm at.
Right.
Like like it's not sustainable for me on a long haul, and like I don't make it to the end of the week.
Right.
It so less so in the live rounds recently, but it's like this idea of like whenever somebody's like sitting and I'm still drilling, it's like I get to count that rep as two.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, they didn't get their rep in and I got a rep on them. Because it's like if they got a rep and I got a rep, who got ahead?
Right. Yeah.
Like we're rep for rep right now. We're even.
All right, let's
Like
go.
I'm not winning.
Right.
And so it's like this like the reps that count. It's like it makes me feel like it's kind of this nasty sense of superiority that is like it can be a double-edged blade for sure.
I
But
feel like it's finding the difference between ego and confidence.
yeah. Definitely strokes the ego though. Like
Yeah, you got to tell it to shut the fuck up. Right? I mean, it's
sometimes like sometimes I wish people had a little bit more of an ego. Like
well,
some
Jordan
people,
Peterson broke it down.
Mm.
He did it was like 45 minutes, and it was the difference between ego and like he had a different word for confidence, but it's like confident. If I had to round it out to like more things that I've heard and listened to like in my car, it's like confidence means you have if you're at a desk, you have a stack of papers that you've done, right? This is me. I've done all of these things. Ego is like I have 5 papers and it says I've done this big stack, right? Confidence is like understanding that you have the work that you've done to know why you're confident in that thing.
Yeah.
Ego is like, I can fight. And you're like, you haven't done anything. And it's like, yeah, I've seen some fights. You're like, that's like 1 page. And that's most people. And it's like, there is a difference between being confident and wanting to build on that stack than building this ego stack and keeping that one small, you know?
Yeah. You know, the quickest way to tell, like, when you're watching, like, you're at a competition looking at your opponent's camp or something like that, and you want to tell, like, what kind of a fighter are they? Are they an egotistical fighter or are they a confident fighter? It's like you pay attention to their language and pay attention to the languaging of their coach. And this is also going to tell you the level of their coaching really, really quickly. Like, do they coach on emotional points? You're so tough. You're a stud, man. You're gonna go out and bully this guy. You're stronger than him. You're faster than him. So what are they building up? What are they building up there? That's actually all just like egotistical belief. Or do they talk like technical? Do they talk statistics? It's like if I hear a question, like if I would to hear a fighter like in a interview and it's like, oh, well, what makes you confident that you can beat this guy? And she's like, well, I've identified he has no jab defense. And he starts talking about it's like, oh, well, this guy, like, he has no jab defense. And then when he's on the wall, like, this is a hole that I've spotted in his game plan here. It's like, oh, this is a humble camp.
Yeah.
Like, that's a humble, like, you're talking reality now.
Right.
So like,
because I'm tougher than
I'm
this
faster
dude.
than you. I'm stronger than you. I can hit harder. I'm the hardest hitting. Blah 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 blah. It's like, no. But are they talking positioning? Are they talking like clock management? Are they talking like what are the aspects of like what's the professionalism of it? Like professional humility is to be like, oh yeah, like if I just stand there power slap style, you're gonna knock me out. Like I can't just like there's something about you that I have to respect. and like the professionalism is like implementing the technical game plan, the tactical game plan to get that job done without getting hurt. It's like I'm trying to hit and not get hit. I'm trying to accomplish the victory and receive minimal damage along the way so I can like preserve the tool for the next war.
Right.
And like if I break my sword in this war, like how can I go to war next time?
Yeah.
And like I'm not like, and so it's like this balance of like defense, self-preservation, and then offense, and like getting the job done. And it's really easy to see like coaching. It's hysterical because sometimes it's people who you would think would be high level coaches and who are portrayed as high level coaches, and they're like completely detached from reality in their coaching. Like it's like, oh, your opponent's scared, blah 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 blah, and they're talking
and he's
about
over there
things that they
standing
have
up.
like
you're like, no, he isn't.
Nothing that they can control. Versus back to Trey and Armfield. Like, I mean, there was a component of inspiration that like Trey was like pulling on some of those emotional strings there, and like saying some very inspiring things, but like word after word, situation after situation, technical advice, exact instruction specifically to do like what needs to be done in that moment. And it's just like, that's humble coaching. It's like if somebody lowers their level in front of you, they do a pump fake and they're dropping your level. It's arrogant to not change your stance. It's arrogant to posture up and to like give them that window for them to shoot in on that takedown.
Right.
It's arrogant to be like, oh yeah, I can be out of position in front of you. It's like, that's the true arrogance. And it's like, these guys talk about humility all the time.
Footwork, I'm just gonna go swinging. You're like, what?
But then it's like outside the cage, they'll be really, really humble. But then it's like they get into the cage and it's like the actual actions, it's like they don't respect the position. And like, and like, yeah, I'm just kind of
I mean, it reminds me of
point.
It reminds me of like if Trevor Whitman's in a corner.
yeah. Trevor Whitman is fantastic corner guy. Rose should fire everyone else in her corner, and just have Trevor. And I'm not saying that she gets to divorce anyone or anything like that. She can keep, but
Pat Berry, like, my God, I remember watching that, and I'm like, Coach, great advice. And he's like, yeah, and he says something. I go, God, you're ruining it for her.
Yeah,
I'm like,
man.
It's bad.
Yeah, Trevor Whitman, fantastic high level coach. And like, I mean, you can hear it in his level of instruction. It's like
you can hear it exactly in the instruction, especially in the corner. He's like, you're standing right here. You need to go here, do this, do that, do that. We know this, right? And he's like,
yep.
Gagey's like, I do. And the next thing you know, he knocks out Poirier with a head kick. And you're like, where did that come from? Right? And he's like, he told me. I'm like, yeah, it's a good coach.
Yeah. And another guy who's been really good tape study for me, like is Barry Robinson, Coach Barry Robinson. So he's from Million Styles Boxing is that's his brand, and he's just fantastic. Like the way he breaks everything down, and also just like when he talks about the training and like the rounds that you're supposed to be doing, it's always so hysterical because he's just like, oh yeah, you're gonna be walking. It's like you're gonna be doing this step, and you'll do it for like, well, how long is your fight for? So it's this many rounds, this many minutes, because it's like sometimes it's boxing, sometimes it's MMA. So it's like these are like, how long is your fight supposed to be? It's like, okay, well, we're gonna walk in stance. That's it. No hands, no nothing else. It's just like just the footwork in one stance for the entirety of your fight. That many rounds, and then we restart. We do it. You're off stance, and so you're just gonna walk, and so you're taking your step. He has a couple of different bases that he starts
Very
off
helpful.
where it's like this: if you're establishing the footwork, and so like you've done 2 moves, so one in each stance, like same step in southpaw, same step in orthodox, and you've done it the duration of 2 fights. It's just like, okay, well now you layer the cake, and so now you add your jab in. and then you do the whole fight orthodox, and then start over whole fight southpaw, and then you're just like, well, now you add your cross in, and so you just whole fight like that, and then you just layer the cake, and then now you add your like Muay Thai fundamentals with your kicks, checking a kick, throwing a kick, adding your teeps, then you add your shots in, your sprawls in, your defensive wrestling, and it's all just like a shadow spar, and it just starts from this, and then like before too long you've done like the duration of like 20 fights, and it's all just like walking. And
fantastic for putting it in here.
Yeah, well, it speeds up the decision making, but then you would think it's just like, oh well, I can walk for an hour, no problem. But like you actually start doing these drills and you start actually layering the cake, paying attention to the technique, keeping everything clean, getting in your weight class, so moving at the speed of the people who are in your weight class that they move at. So it's like you can't be a lightweight moving at like the walking pace of a middleweight, or the walking pace or the volume of a heavyweight. Like you can't be a 145er throwing the volume count that a middleweight throws. Like there's a different level of volume that they have. And so it's like you got to get in your weight class now too. You got to do your footwork, layer the cake, add your hands, add your kicks, add your knees, add your elbows, add your defensive wrestling, add your wall get ups, add your shot walks in, strike into your shots. And by the time you layer all of this in, you finish the rounds, it's like you're just fucking exhausted, and all you've been doing is walking in a circle. And
well, the last thing you want to do is also be like, oh, how are my feet supposed to be? You don't want to think about that. You want to be able to get the job done, find the gap quick, do what you have to do, like you said, get out. Win it. Win it. Every exchange, winning it. And the last thing you want to go is like, were my feet okay? Like, it should be in there already. And those are my favorite drills, where you just walk, find a straight line, walk one way, walk back. And then when you do that, then you can add punches. Then when you add punches, well, now you can do it forward and backwards. And I was doing that the other day. I'm like, did I forget? I did. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot how to do it backwards. Right? Because someone could be more aggressive than you are. You're just expecting, if there's an exchange, that they're going to. But then also, it's like, let's just do a regular scenario. Most people are right-handed. They're probably going to throw this right hand, thinking with the ego they can fight. Great. You can sidestep, upper, or over, right? You don't want to think about it. You should just be like, I know he's going to do that. Or assume, there you go. 95% of fights that you're going to get anywhere else other than a gym or the octagon, you're probably going to win just by that little thing I just told you. Right? It's super easy. But that's also consistency, putting it into play, and doing it over and over again. It's just layering the cake.
Keeping the tool sharp.
Yes.
It's like BJ Penn, like he got knocked out in a bar fight. Like,
that's so sad.
Like you would assume that, like he probably wasn't training at that point. I mean, he's been retired for how long? I mean, he's at a bar, so it's like
he's probably intoxicated
in a bar fight. So it's like that probably doesn't help things. But it's like you can like skills, like just like you can acquire them, you can lose them. And like you don't keep them sharp, you're gonna lose them. And so it's like it is like you do have to review it, you do have to practice it, you do have to pull it back, and like pull it back out of the notes and like refresh yourself on it, and like get your body to go through the motions again, visualize yourself doing it, do it physically, and like you have to have these components to keep the skill from atrophying, because it
just like a muscle.
If you completely stopped walking, like you would lose the ability to walk before too long. Like and you'd have to retrain yourself how to walk if you wanted to do it again. And it's the same thing with a lot of these skills. It's like it doesn't take much on a consistent basis to like keep it, and it just takes a little bit more on a consistent basis to continually develop it. But it doesn't take long,
right?
Like a way for it to.
You have me thinking like this, like, oh no. You're like, I think you'll be seeing me very quickly.
Man, how old are you?
27.
Plenty of time, man. Plenty of time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's like
I've just never found any organization, any group, anywhere else other than that place that makes me feel the most comfortable while being uncomfortable. And also like just brotherhood.
yeah.
There's no other. You can't get it at work. You can't get it outside. You can try, but then it's also
different.
like
It's
you're
different.
not. I mean, look at my wall. Like anything nerd related, you're like, I relate to you on this thing, and then they're like, well, it's just not the same. You're like, it's also weird to be like, I'm just getting choked out and like figuring out what to do. Like it's like, hold on. They're like, what are you saying? But to end, because I have to use the toilet. Keeping the weapon sharp. So March 1st, you have a fight.
Yeah. March 1st, got an opponent, so that's fantastic.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah, I'm hoping he shows up.
Yeah.
Like I'm really, really hoping, like, because I've been moving a lot of tickets. And
2 over here.
I just like I'm really hoping he shows up. I'm really hoping I get to fight. So like that's my biggest concern at this point is like I don't want anyone to pull out from it. And so
that's always tough to be on.
Yeah.
Not because of the tickets, but it's always tough to watch you guys go through everything you have to go through, and then that happens. You're like, fuck you.
Well, I mean, I'm on the line for some of these tickets, like for like the way that they do some of the different things, and I understand like from the promotions, from the like this isn't a negative against Synergy. Synergy is awesome to work with.
Right.
Chris is awesome to work with. They take care of their guys really, really well, and they do a fantastic job. But
Absolutely.
they also have to take care of the fight night itself and stuff like that, and they got to make sure that like that different aspects of it are taken care of. And so there's just like this in between process. It's like as I'm getting some of these tables and stuff like that, it's like I got to upfront some of the money for it until I can collect from everyone like that. But then it's like this weird process, like if I sell 3-4 tables and stuff like that.
Well, there's the other aspect of the fight game.
Yeah, there's like worrying about the fight at the same time. But then it's like, and then if the fight doesn't happen, and like I've put all of that money on the line, and hopefully collect it all back from these people, like so they can come watch the fight. But then if my fight's not on, it's now suddenly like very awkward. It's just like, oh yeah, well, it's like you still owe me the money for you still owe me that. I know you were coming to see me fight, and like opponent dropped out, and so like still pay me for the ticket, please. Type of thing. But the preparation for this camp, it's been taking place for over 2 years, and like it's actually I think it was like March 5th or 4th was my last fight, so it'll be like right at 2 years, just a couple of days before 2 years. And like I've added new elements into my game. Like I've sharpened a lot of the weapons that I already enjoyed using. I've added a whole new arsenal of tools, whole new arsenal of defense. Like I'm really excited to demonstrate like what it is that I'm capable of doing, and I'm hopeful for this fight. So the opponent, Damien Hoback or something like that. Damien.
Cool. We're talking about
Steve. I think he's 5-2, wrestler. So I've watched all the fights that there's tape of him. Watched a lot of his wrestling matches as well, and like he's an aggressive guy. Like he likes to come out swinging. He's a good brawler. So like he seems game, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm hoping that he's training hard, and I'm hoping that he's preparing himself in like the best possible way to make like the fight itself as exciting as possible. Because I like
You want that in competition.
Yeah, I do. I want to go out and I want to have a competition. Like I want to go out and I want to compete. And like some of the fights I've had, like it it's it's been almost a little bit of a letdown at the end of it, because it's just like, man, all this like all this pressure, all this like process for it to be like easier than most of my spar rounds. Like,
yeah,
like
I've had a lot of
like,
guys at marathons say the same.
You want that. You want that. You really don't want to be having the hardest fight of your life
every fucking fight.
Like
yeah,
in the cage in front of the audience, like taking huge amounts of damage or anything like that. But I do want to fight. Like I want to. I want to outmatch him for sure.
Yeah.
But it's something like in chess, like if a grandmaster is playing against somebody who, I don't know if you're familiar with chess ratings or anything like that, somebody with like a rating of like 900 to 1100 or something like that.
Well, I feel really shitty about my online chess score.
Mine's really low too. I don't even want to talk about that one. But it's hard to see, like it would be hard to recognize if a grandmaster like was playing if he was pitted against somebody with like a 900 rating or 1,000 rating, because the sophistication of the opposition doesn't allow for you to see their level of skill. And so like I want to demonstrate like the highest levels of my skill, and so I need skilled opposition to be able to pull that out, because like that's where it becomes like you can see like the most profound moves that grandmasters have made have always been against other grandmasters. It's like always been against other high level competition. And like Kansas City and the Midwest specifically, like we're up and coming on the MMA scene. I feel like it's not going to be long before like we will be the MMA capital of the United States. I feel like we're heading in that direction, and
it's in a lot of stuff. It's not just people. I've heard over the last week. I've heard NFL, of course, Kansas City Chiefs football. Then I've heard Garrett was on the card. Oh my, Kansas City. All right, yeah. Then I've even heard comedians dogging all other places that are like supposed to be good for comedy, and they go, Kansas City's fucking fantastic. We want to go there more often. Like everything's blowing up.
Yeah, there's like I feel like, and this is one of the moments that like I mean, like that Super Bowl Sunday. This is one of the like I felt like I caught a glimpse into a potential future, like and like there's multiple different ingredients. Like I've gotten job offers like a couple of different places in like out of town, like across the country, and like every single time like that I've looked at it, every single time that I've like actually sat down and just like, okay, pros and cons, like should I stay or should I go? Should I be here? Or should I go elsewhere? It's like, man, there's something like happening here locally in Kansas City, and there's this like this moment that we're coming to, like that.
It's like a static charge.
Yeah.
You're like, I can feel it.
It's about to pop. Yeah. That next big thing. So yeah, that's all very exciting. I love fighting here. I love being in Kansas City. I love the city, and like I love the community that I have here, and I love where I think we're going, and what we're heading up here, and what we're pioneering here in the city, and I'm excited to be a part of that. And on the fight scene, like getting my next amateur fight. So this is going to be the 6th one for me, and continuing my journey in that direction. Like I've also been cornering some fights and like going and coaching at competitions and stuff, and so just continuing to add in that direction and just like helping build up the army
Yeah.
and like prepare for this to go to the next level where
I'm getting
I think
goosebumps
it's
as you
going.
talk. Just FYI, I'm over
Yeah.
here like this. Like
Man, that's why you need to get back in the gym, man, because
I
like
like it.
you got to be a part of it too, and
Yeah.
like uh like we need people documenting it as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like I know it's not your like ambition to become UFC world champion,
Right.
and like different people have different ambitions, for sure. I don't even have like the ambition to become a UFC world champion. I think like
Which is
I
why
like
you're the best one. Most people,
uh,
it's so cliche, but yeah, it's in Dune, right? The movie. And he's
Mm.
like, I don't want to be you. He's talking to his dad. He's like, I don't want to be the Duke.
uh,
And he's like, great. He goes, great. Well, you're perfect for it because I didn't want it either.
I feel like it's a little bit of a different dynamic. But I do appreciate like what you're implying with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do think it might be incorrect.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do think that we will have world champions come out of marathon for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I think that some of them are already training on the mats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the unique things that's going to happen with marathon as a gym is like you see a lot of gyms that produce a world champion.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see a world champion blueprint, and that marathon is going to be a fighter factory, a world champion factory, and that's going to produce world champion after world champion,
Mm-hmm.
and is going to dominate like the game at multiple different levels. And
I have no doubt about that.
like I also have the ambition for it to be potentially multiple organizations as well, not just just UFC. I think the UFC is great. I love a lot of what they're doing. I don't have any like I'm not trying to speak bad about them or anything like that. But there's a lot
I like one championship a lot better.
I like one championship too. There's some tricky things and dynamics though with it as well.
I've got some insight guys who've told me some stuff. Yeah.
So like and like in any corporation that gets to that size, there's going to be some level of corruption and some level. It's like okay, it's just like it is what it is. It's a byproduct of the process. So it's like I think these guys like being a part of this process and building this out and like not just being a fighter fighting for myself, but like being able to fight here for my team. And it's like I know that like my fight, the experience that I gain, like the experience like of preparing for it, it's like it's also helps everyone else in the camp. And like and like I'm working on myself not just for me to be as good as I can be, but like so I can give the most I possibly can.
Yes.
Like back into that community. And it's that like at marathon, and it's like that one of the first pieces of artwork that Trey hung up is like seed the garden more than you take the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like right there, you see it right before you turn to go into the locker room. It's right there every single day. And it's like that is the philosophy of it. And I'm like I view this fight as that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I view like this whole experience, like this fight camp, and then whatever fights that I can have after this fight, like it all ties back to build. Like it's not just about winning the fights; it's about building something real.
Yes.
It's about
yes.
building the machine behind that, and this is part of it. And so I'm excited because like this is the first fight camp that like I'm doing, and I don't have another job.
Yeah.
Like I train people.
Yeah.
And I train myself.
This is it.
This is it. This is what I do. And like as I figure out this process and I can model a blueprint and like just like some of my different coaches, Trey and Ninja, have like shown me the things that I need to be doing in order to get to the different places. Like I want to be the example of like, okay, like you're trying to be a fighter, you're in your amateur stages, and now you're going to go full time into it. You've made the commitment. Now there's that bridge between the commitment and making it happen.
Yes.
And it's just like, okay, what's the blueprint? Like rubber hits the road. What are the things, the inputs and the outputs? Like what changes on a day-to-day basis? And like figuring out this process. And like as I figure this out for myself and figure it out on this team and with this team, it's like hopefully like this can then, like my experience can then be built on. And
Right.
like because already it's like you see like the level of amateurs that Trey is putting out, like the level of amateur fighter.
No
that
offense,
Trey
not even close.
better than most of the local pros. Better than most of the local pros.
I've been there to watch.
And it's
Yeah.
because they're absorbing it at a high level.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how can we raise that mat level even higher? How can we get guys to be able to spend more energy on it, spend more resources on it, up leveling themselves more, like investing in their skill acquisition more, like layering the cake in every dynamic of it, like getting the Warpath properly funded. Like one of my fights, my car broke down on the way to the doctor's meeting for the examination. Like I'm trying to fucking fight that weekend.
So you decide,
like,
you're like, I gotta run to the
I still
doctor's
have
appointment.
like 20 tickets to like taxi out to people to like, because I have to go get them their tickets because
Right.
like it's the physical tickets. And then my car just like fucking breaks down, and like at that point like I had no money. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything to fix the car. I couldn't like I didn't have anything in the bank account, and it's like it's fighting in 3 days. Like I didn't like
those are those moments where you're like, when that's no longer a worry, it's like, I do remember that day. I do remember that car breaking down, and now here I am.
It's different. It's different, and it's like it's not arrived. I've certainly not arrived, and like I never will. It's like I'm gonna try my whole life, and then I'll die, and that'll be it. And like that's okay. That's okay. I'm not like just being able to try is like it's a privilege. Like life doesn't owe me anything. And so like just even being able to have this opportunity, like it is a privilege. And like I take it very seriously. So
Well, so do we. And I'm telling you, we need a table, we need this. I've already asked, like, I swear, 8 to 10 people. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to. Never been to one, never done. I'm like, okay, great. There's one in March. Okay.
fantastic.
So we are absolutely excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get you guys hooked up and get you all set up for this. And yeah, we can definitely talk more details.
You're good.
Yeah.
I got goose. I was listening like it was a UFC promo, and I'm over here like, oh God. I was like goosebumps. But I appreciate your time, and again, congratulations on this new journey you and Heather are on. And yeah, I will probably see you March, but also I'm just
getting you back in the gym here pretty quick.
Yeah,
You'll see me very soon.
It's all right. I have this weird feeling that you'll be like, oh, here you go. And she has her little gi on. And the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, what is he teaching her?
She can't crawl yet. So you're safe a little bit longer.
Steven, thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate
really
you.
Appreciate it, Jason.
Thank you, Carly.
Welcome.
Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.